So I just want to remind you that what Julian Assange has to say, it's getting to the point where the mark of international distinction and service to humanity is no longer the Nobel Peace Prize, but an espionage indictment from the United States Department of Justice. So just like if you haven't been called a conspiracy theorist yet, it's because you haven't challenged the establishment. And if you haven't been charged with an espionage indictment from the U.S. Department, you're not a real foreign correspondent or a journalist. That's what he's saying. That's the badge of honor now, is for the U.S. Department to come and try to indict you on espionage. That's right. By the way, the guy's Australian.
That's the point I don't get. I've seen them call him a traitor. I'm like, to who?
He's an Australian. And do you know that the UK's High Court ruled over the summer that Assange can be extradited to the United States. And so we talked about this. They had a protest there. Thousands of protesters gathered in London on Saturday in the first ever human chain around Parliament, calling for the release of Julian Assange. So here's a little bit of it. Very picturesque.
Yeah.
So that's pretty inspiring. Everybody's holding hands around the park. That's pretty cool. So that was over in the UK. They did it here in the United States too. Our friend
Misty
Winston put together an event in DC, and here's from that one. Thousands protested in Australia and UK demanding the release of WikiLeaks. Let's see, where is this? Is this in Australia? Where is this from? Is this from DC? Oh yeah, Ford Fisher. So that was the protest that Misty put together, and then here's a little snippet of a speech from Chris Hedges at that event.
Merrick Garland and those who work in the Department of Justice are the puppets, not the puppet masters. They are the facade, the fiction, that the long-standing persecution of Julian Assange has something to do with justice. Like the High Court in London, they carry out an elaborate judicial pantomime. They debate arcane legal nuances to distract from the Dickensian farce where a man who has not committed a crime, who is not a U.S. citizen, can be extradited under the Espionage Act and sentenced to life in prison for the most courageous and consequential journalism of our generation. The engine driving the lynching of Julian is not here on Pennsylvania Avenue. It is in Langley, Virginia, located at a complex we will never be allowed to surround, the Central Intelligence Agency. It is driven by a secretive interstate, one where we do not count, in the mad pursuit of empire and ruthless exploitation. Because the machine of this modern Leviathan was exposed by Julian and WikiLeaks, the machine demands revenge.
And that's all this is. Revenge for Julian Assange exposing war crimes. And guess who was the only major news outlet in the United States that covered this? Who do you think it was? It was Fox News. I couldn't find. Go look, see if anybody go. But put in.
I will.
I couldn't find if they did. Julian Assange supporters protest against U.S. extradition in London, D.C. Crucial that we fight.
Oh, good. Then he'll be extra demonized by liberals now.
Yeah.
Because, to quote the great, what's his name? It makes all the right people upset.
Who said that?
Vaj Limbaugh.
Oh, who cares? Supporters in London on Saturday formed a human chain outside Britain's parliament that stretched from its perimeter railings and across nearby Westminster Bridge to the other side of the River Thames. Assange, who is currently being held at London's high-security Belmarsh prison, will face espionage charges if he's extradited to the United States, and he's accused of publishing information detailing crimes committed by the United States government in the Guantanamo Bay detention camp, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and reveals instances in which the CIA engaged in torture and rendition. And who's the person being prosecuted? The guy who exposed that, not the people who did that stuff. The people who did that stuff, they're all celebrated today. Ellen goes and sits in a luxury box with George Bush and watches a football game. He's the guy who did this.
Hey, if you saw the show 24, you know they got to do that stuff.
They got to do that stuff. In the United States, supporters of the Australian-born activist gathered outside the Justice Department to call on the federal government to drop its extradition bid. The protesters said they hope Assange never steps foot on U.S. soil and that he would not be treated fairly by the judicial system. This is Fox News reporting this. Did you find anybody else that reported it?
Nope.
Nobody else even reported this.
The only thing that's being reported today is CBS News saying that Julian Assange, WikiLeaks founder, has COVID in UK prison. That's it.
Multiple speakers at the rally in D.C. railed against the corporate press for their lack of journalists at the event. Oh, really? No actual journalists showing up at the event. Do you see why journalism in America sucks so hard and why I can outdo them? And that's not tongue in cheek or like hyperbole that I actually outdo them. Well, the way I just reported every story today about Ukraine is better than you're going to see anywhere in corporate news.
On purpose.
That's right.
On purpose.
That's right.
Doing it worse than you on purpose.
And the people who call themselves journalists aren't journalists like you used to think of as a kid. These are all social climbers who come from rich families and went to Ivy League schools who all want to be celebrities on television. These are not news people.
PR people is what they become.
They're right. They're PR people for the establishment. And that's why none of those people were at any of these events for the greatest journalist of our time being prosecuted by their government.
Well, also, they published all his...
And they published it, too. New York Times published Julian Assange's work. We need watchdog journalists, not lapdog journalists, two-time Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein said. The CIA has reportedly previously had plans to kill Assange over the publication of sensitive CIA hacking tools known as Vault 7. The agency said it suffered the largest data loss in CIA history after WikiLeaks published the materials. According to a September 2021 Yahoo report, the CIA during the Trump era had discussions at the highest levels of the administration about plans to assassinate him.
Well, he's their Osama bin Laden of their criminal scheme.
Following orders from then CIA Director Mike Pompeo, the agency had drawn up kill sketches and options. The report further noted advanced plans to kidnap and rendition Assange and that the CIA made a political decision to charge him. Here's the organizer of that event. Well, would you look at that? Corporate News did cover our event. Thank you. We appreciate you. So this is someone saying Julian Assange supporters protest against U.S. extradition in London, D.C. Crucial that we fight. So that was Fox News. So she's acknowledging Fox News covering the event. So that's the only one we could... By the way, here's Julian's kid. Doesn't get to have a father because he's courageous. Julian Assange, who has a chronic lung condition and suffered a stroke last year, just tested positive for COVID in Belmarsh Prison. So here's some more. Here's in San Francisco, they had an event too. So tip of the hat to those people. So there were events in a lot of different places. So tip of the hat to people, especially Misty Winston for putting that together.
Well, listen, America needs to send a really much more important lesson, which is stop snitching. Stop snitching.
Snitches, what is that saying?
Snitches get COVID in Belmarsh Prison.
Yeah. So if you think that anything you see in corporate news is actually worthy of anything, you're wrong. The New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN, they're all fucking shit. And they're all lying to you. And they don't care about your freedom. They don't care about journalism. What do they care about? They care about keeping their pay coming from the military-industrial complex and Wall Street, the people and Big Pharma, the people who are imprisoning Julian Assange right now. We're doing stand-up comedy in Virginia Beach, Richmond, Virginia, Arlington, Virginia, San Jose, California, Miami, Florida, West Palm Beach, Denver, Palm Springs, Austin, Texas. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets. And while you're there, join our premium program. You get to see my new stand-up special coming out.